All right, let me give you a brief update in terms of what's been going on in the Canadian economy and how that correlates with the real estate market. So higher interest rates are continuing to cool down overall real estate market in Canada. And now we had a surprisingly strong spring market earlier in the year, but if you put that aside, the housing market in Canada as a whole has been slowing down in terms of number of transactions, in terms of the ratio of sales to new listings, and we are entering a more of a balanced market or buyer's market in general. Now, we also had the GDP numbers, so controlling for population, GDP per capita contracted for 4 straight months, and that's a clear indication of slowing down. So we are having a historic high population growth, and that's somehow masking the slowing down of the economy. But when you look at the GDP numbers per person, it is contracting. We also had the Canadian unemployment rate for over the past 4 months going up by 0.5 percentage point, which is a remarkable reading in such a low period of time. So I was reading a report where it indicated that if you go back to since 1970s, we only had 6 times that we had such a high reading of an employment number being posted for such a short time frame, and 4 out of those 6 times we were in a clear recession environment. Now we also had the very aggressive monetary tightening policy decisions starting in summer of last year, and usually for that to work its way through the system, it takes about a year and a half. So there is this consensus amongst the economists that that is starting to fully bite basically into the Canadian economy. Now, put this aside, we also had the CPI, the inflation readings coming out in September for July, and they were pointing towards the wrong direction. So one measure the Bank of Canada, for example, uses to make a monetary policy decision is the CPI trend numbers. So it excludes food prices and energy prices to have a more precise reading of the effect of the monetary policy decisions. So the CPI trend, at the risk of repeating myself, I'm going to show this slide. I've shown this to some of my clients already. The CPI trend numbers in March were at 4.4%, and we were on a steady decline for that reading year over year. But in August, we had 3.9%, which was the wrong direction. It went up compared to July reading, and that's concerning. They will pay close attention to that. That is why they're saying that inflation numbers are sticky, and they won't. I don't think the Bank of Canada would hesitate to raise interest rates again if they find that necessary as far as inflation is concerned, because that is their core mandate, maintaining an inflation rate a range of 2 to 3%. Now, put this aside, if you look at the GDP numbers that came out in Q2 for the Canadian economy, we contracted by 0.2%. The expectation was for it to go up by 1.5%. And then if we get another reading for the third quarter for a lower GDP numbers than forecast, then that would be a clear sign of the Canadian economy slowing down. And when you couple that with the fact that the employment market is slowing down when you factor in population growth, there is this notion amongst the economists, based on my understanding, that the meeting in October should be pointing towards holding the monetary rate as is, because so far it's showing that it's been restrictive enough, and then the Canadian economy is slowing down, absent of any major economic events. And that seems to be the consensus so far, but it's obviously impossible to be able to say for sure. Now, the translation into real estate market is, when you look at the Canadian 5-year bond yields, they've been on a steady increase for the past month. This correlates to fixed rate mortgages. So if there's upward pressure for bond yields, 5-year bond yields specifically, there will be upward pressure for mortgage rates. We've seen that in the market, and that will put a downward pressure on prices. It's usually a leading indicator of what will happen with prices moving forward. And this doesn't necessarily apply to a specific pocket, but it's general. It points towards a sentiment. Now, moving on into October, we'll have the employment numbers coming out for September, which will paint a clear picture in terms of where we stand as far as employment market is concerned. We'll also have the policy announcement, Bank of Canada's policy announcement on October 25th, and then a week after that we'll have the monthly real GDP numbers for August, which doesn't make sense to me. Why can we schedule the policy announcement meeting after we have all the relative information? I mean, the August numbers are already 2 months behind, but that's beyond me. Anyways, that's it for my update for the economy so far. As we move on into the fall market, I will provide you with more updates. Thank you.